Alright, mounting adaptations. The group includes the inspection of flywheel, ring gear, and removal of the installation of flywheel, ring gear. Group 16, mounting applications. The flywheel must be inspected for the cracks or other damage at the time that is removed from the engine inspection. Use the part number ST1166 magnetic cracker detector to inspect the flywheel for cracks. Remove the creeper bar from the magnetic poles and put the magnet on one of the area to be inspected. Spray the powder with air onto the area inspected and use low pressure to air to remove the excess powder. The powder shows all the cracks as the white line. Warning, never use the flywheel with that cracks in the bowl circles and mounting areas. Inspect the clutch face with the flywheel. Heat from the operation clutch can cover the small cracks and march on the clutch face of the free flywheel. You can make a machine remove the crack marks. Warning, do not machine the flywheel unless the equipment in the shop can be keeping the factory standard for the flywheel dimensions. Static balance for the clutch face for the flywheel must not be machined to be less than 625 thousandths of an inch. They do not make the machine the flywheel within 4 inches radius of the center of the flywheel. The static balance for the flywheel must be 2 ounces or less. The flywheel ring gear inspection. Inspect the ring gear broken for the damaged teeth. Replace the ring gear if the teeth are broken or damaged. Use the heating torch to heat the ring gear. Do not use the cutting torch, blunt, chisel, or hit chisel with a hammer to push the ring gear from the flywheel. Replacement. Use an oven to heat the ring gear to 600 degrees Fahrenheit. If not available, the heating torch. Do not use the coating torch. Apply the heat with the inside diameter of the ring gear. Use a 600 degree Fahrenheit Teppel stick crayon or equivalent to find the temperature of the ring gear. Apply the crayon onto the ring gear. When the temperature is correct, chalk mark left by the crayon will become a liquid. Do not overheat the ring gear. This will change the hardness of the metal. 2. After the ring gear has been heated to the correct temperature, quickly install it onto the flywheel. Warning, always wear protective gloves when handling parts that have been heated. Alright, Group 18, wear limit specification and torque. Warn limit is saved with the manual indicate that the parts that may be used to be warn limit if the discard off exceeds with the warn limit. All inches modeled with the same unless otherwise stated. Limited given USA metric and metric measurements. All metric units are enclosed in the brackets. Alright, the cylinder block specifications: inches, camshaft bushing bore, cylinder counter bore, liner bore, clearance, lower liner bore, main bearing bore, block, cylinder liner, crankshaft, bearing bearings, roller bearings, cranker shaft, thrust bearing, cranker and shaft, end clearance, connection rod, piston pin, bushings, connection rod, connecting rod bolts, connection rods, cap screws, bolt hole pilots, 2 bolt rods, dull pill pilot, 2 cap screw rods, piston pin, camshaft, journal, gear case cover, accessory drive, bushing, pipe, plug sizes, main bearing, cap screws, connecting caps, nuts, connecting rod to cap screws. Cylinder 2 cylinder head specifications: cylinder head, valve stem, valve guide, valve seat insert, cylinder head, valve spring, crosshead guide, injector sleeves. Alright, Group 2 cylinder head specifications: inches, valve seat insert, oversized diameter, oversized depth, insert out of diameter, insert inside diameter, thickness, the insert thickness. Required load for the length, valve spring number, part number, the approximate free length, the inches, number of the coils, diameter, inches length, inch, pound worn limit, the pound new minimum, pound new maximum, cylinder head, pipe, plug torque, plug size, minimum, maximum. Group 3 rocker level specification: measuring bushing shaft, inside outside diameter, shaft outside diameter, bushing inside diameter, injector cam roller, valve cam rollers, roller pin diameter, diameter of the bore of the roller pin. Group 4 MVT cam follower measurements: bushing inside diameter, injector cam roller, valve cam roller, injector valve. Group 4 push rod length, injector and valve. Group 7 lubricating oil pump section specifications: signal loop, lubrication oil pump, bushings in the idle drive shaft, drive gear to the body, clearance drive shaft, idler shaft, driving gear, drive shaft, single double capacity lubricating oil pump, bushings in idler drive shaft, drive gear to the body, drive shaft, idler shaft, driving gear, driver shaft, piston, cooling oil temperature, double lubricating oil pump, bushing. Group 7 lubricating oil specifications: 2 idler drive shaft, drive gear body, drive shaft, idler shaft, drive gear, drive shaft, single scavenger pump, bushing, idler drive shaft, idle shaft, drive gear, drive shaft, coupling dowels, coupling drive shaft, double scavenger, pushing, idler drive shaft, drive gear shaft, drive shaft, coupling dowels, coupling drive shaft, full flow, cool, filter cool, full flow, cool, lubricating oil pump, pressure regulator spring, full flow, cooler, lubricating oil bypass valve spring. Demand cool lubricating oil pump pressure regulator spring demand fuel cool lubricating oil pump flow demand flow cool lubricating oil pump bypass valve Group 7 NTE oil pump specification bushing in idler drive shaft idler shaft driving shaft oil pan capacities US gallons and center. Group 7 hoses, turbocharger oil supply to full flow filter, turbocharger oil line, group hose bends, rubber lined, Teflon lined. Group 8 cooling system specifications, eccentric and fuel full flow cooling, water pump, housing bearing boards, housing boring, carbon 5 steel. Shaft diameter, impeller bore, impeller vane divided body bore diameter, minimum press fit, benefit, house bore, shaft diameter, impeller bore, impeller vane body, clearance poly bore, wear sleeve outside diameter, minimum press fit between Group 9, shaft bushing press fit between housing and bushing, accessory drive, hydraulic governor drive. Group 14 assembly main bearing connection rod bearing crankshaft cylinder liner connection rod gear train gear to gear crankshaft camshaft assembly accessory drive lubricating oil pump camshaft with thrust rate with outboard bearing support injection type injector crosshead valve adjustment dynamometer testing lubricating oil pressure blow by crankcase flap cap screws torque specifications. Vibration damper, cap screws, torque, alternator generated torque valve to adjusting length, the cam Fowler gas specifications, the alternator generated torque valve to bracket, alternator generated torque valve to pulley, the alternator generator, no exceptions. Group 14 time and key information, Group 14 injector valve setting position. Group 14 adjustment limits using dial indicator method, aluminum rocker housing, cast iron rocker housing, a European big cam only, Australian big cam only. Injector method, torque method, cast iron rocker housing, aluminum rocker housing, valve clearance, intake cold set, hot set, exhaust cold set, hot set, aluminum rocker, cast iron rocker housing, cap screws, markings, and torques. Lubricating oil. The function of lubricating oil with the Cummins. The engine must be the multifunctional mode of the form. The primary function of lubrication is to provide with the film between the move to reduce the parts of friction, cooling, serve the heat transfer media with the carrier wave, the heat critical areas, sealing, filling with the uneven surface of the cylinder wall, blowout stems, turbocharger oil seal cleaning, to hold the contaminated specification, prevent the building of the deposit of the engine surface. In addition, with the most also provide, depending on the cushioning of the glove, the components operated with a high stress, such as the gears and push tube, the protection for oxidization, corrosion. Hydraulic action for the component for the such of the Jacob, the brake of the hydraulic control for the engine lubricating oil pump must be changed and not to no longer perform the function for the engine. A oil does not wear the become the contaminated with the point no longer satisfactory protect the engine contamination of the oil normally result for the engine operation. During the engine operation, the wide variety of contaminants introduced into the oil. Some of these are byproducts of engine combustion, asphaltness, soot, acid, partially burned fuel, acid varnishes, and sludge which were formed as a result of the oxidation of oil, the breakdown of the decomposed dirt enter the engine with the combustion air of the fuel while adding the change for the lubricating oil must have the additive package for the combat these contaminants. The package generally contains detergent dispersements which will keep in insoluble matter of the suspension until the filter of the oil and remove the oil change to prevent the sludge and carbon deposit from forming in the engine. Inhibitors to maintain stability of the oil, prevent acid attacking the metal surface, prevent rust of the acid during the period of the engine of the operating other additive of the engine with the oil, lubricating highly loaded air to prevent scuffing and seizing control of the foaming, the preventing air retention, and the oil performance classification system. The American Petroleum Institute, American Society of Testing Materials, and the Society of American Automotive Engineers have jointly developed and maintain the system of the classifying lubricating oil performance category. The following the brief description of the API category is used for the Cummins oil performance recommendation. CC equivalent. The category to describe the meeting with the requirement of the military specification MIL L2104B. These oils provide the temperature function protection for the sludge and rust air for the design properly performed properly with a high temperature for moderate duty surfaces. CD, this category describes the oil meeting requirement with the Series 3 specification MIL L45199B oils provided with the protection, deposit, oxidation, high temperature. SC, the category described the oil meeting with 1964-1967 requirements. Automobile manufacturer primarily used for the automotive provided low temperature, anti-sludge, anti-rust protection for reducing the light-duty diesel service of the stop-and-go operation. SD, this category describes oil meeting with the 1964-1967 requirement for the automobile manufacturer, primarily used for the automobile to provide low temperature anti-sludge, anti-rust protection required for the light-duty services, such as stop-and-go operation may be substituted for the SC category. SC equivalent of the category describes oil meeting with the 1972 requirement for the automobile manufacturer, primarily used for the automobile to provide protection for the higher temperature oxidation, low temperature anti-sludge, anti-rust required for the light-duty services for the stop-and-go in operation must be substituted with the SC category. The CB, these oil referred in supplemental oil for the category described, which for the requirements for the military specification MIL L214. 2104A, the design the engine test using the fuel with the high sulfur content for the moderate surface oil performance category should not be used in Cummins. The Engine Manufacturer Association publishes the book entitled Lubricating Oil Data. The book, the copy for the may be purchased. Engine Manufacturer Association 111A, Wacker Drive, Chicago, Illinois 60601. The book commercially available. The oil company with the brand name with the API performance categories by each for the brand oil performance recommendation. Cummins engine does not recommend the use for the specific brand for the engine lubrication. Cummins recommends the use for the oil design. Meet the following API categories: CC for the natural aspirated engine, CCD for the use of the turbocharged engine, SC for the use of only engines operating with the light duty surface, including the standby emergency operation. Dual categories are used for the more protection required with the provided with the single category CC and CCD and CCSC categories indicate the oil is blended to meet the performance levels required for each of the single category. A sulfated ash limit that have been placed in lubricating oil for the Cummins engine post-experience to show how the oils have the high ash content to reduce the deposit of the valve that can progress the guttering of the valve with burning. Maximum sulfated ashes content is 1.85 mass percent with recommended for all the oil used for the Cummins engine and except the engine fuel by natural gas. For the natural gas engine, sulfated with ash ranges from 3/10 to 8,500 mass percent recommended for the Cummins engine incorporated with not recommended for the ashless oil with natural gas, which the ash content between 15 mass percent of the ash should represent the organometallic anti-wear additives. Break-in oil, special break-in lubricating oils are not recommended for new rebuilt Cummins engines. The same the lubricating oils used in normal engine operation. Viscosity recommendation. Viscosity for the oil measured resistance for the flow of the Society Automotive Engineers Classified Engine Oil Viscosity Table 1 shows the viscosity for these grades of oil that meets the low temperature 18 degrees Celsius. The requirement of the carrier of the grade of the designation W fix suffix of the oil must meet the low high temperature requirement that is referred to the multi-grade multi-viscosity grade oil. Multi-grade oil is generally produced for the adding of the viscosity improve the additives, retard the thinning effect of the local viscosity of the base oil with the experience of the engine operating with the temperatures. Multi-grade oils meet the requirements of the API classification recommended for the use of the Cummins engines. Cummins recommended for the use of the multi-grade lubricating with the viscosity shown in the Table 2, with the Table 2 showing the Cummins viscosity grade recommendation varies from ambient temperature. The only sufficient cost for the grade recommended for the shown in the table. The Cummins had found that those multiple grade lubricating oil improve the oil consumption control with improve the engine cranking with the cold condition while maintaining lubricating high oil operation temperatures may contribute to improved fuel condensation. Compensation does not recommend a single grade lubricating oil in the event of the recommendation multi-grade oil is not available. The single grade oil may be substituted. Caution: when the single grade oil is used, such for the oil then operating with the temperature range shown in Table 3, the appropriate criteria for selecting oil viscosity grade lowest temperature oil with experience with the engine oil. Some might be problems can be caused with the lack of lubrication during the crankshaft starting with the cold engine, with the oil being used with the viscosity flow property changes the lower viscosity grade of the oil temperature of the oil of the engine, the oil some ratios of the lower end of the range shown in Table 2. Viscosity 1 shows the SAE viscosity number of the lubricating oil. And Table 2 shows the Cummins recommendation viscosity grade at ambient temperature, SA viscosity grade at ambient temperature exemption. Table 2 for standby emergency engine application for the electrical generators, fire pump for the engines located for the heat room with included for the SAE 10W30 for unheated standby emergency application for the Cummins service representative of the advice. Alternative oil grades, synthetic lubricating oil, synthetic oil of the diesel engine and primarily oil blended with the synthesized hydrocarbons, ester for the base for the oil of the manufacturer, chemically reacting lower molecular weights for the reduce the lubricating with has plain predictable properties. Synthetic oil with developed used for the extreme environmental ambient temperatures as low as negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit and 45 degrees Celsius. Fahrenheit high engineering temperatures of 205 degrees Celsius. Under these extreme conditions, petroleum-based caustic lubricants do not perform satisfactory in mineral oil Cummins engines recommended synthetic oil for the use in the Cummins engines operating with the air if the ambient temperature is consistently lower than negative 25 degrees Celsius. Synthetic lubricating oil to use the higher ambient temperature provided to meet the appropriate API surface category viscosity grades. Cummins engines company recommends the same oil change interval followed with the synthetic lubricating oil as the petroleum-based lubricating oil. Arctic engine for the engine operating in the air if the ambient temperature is consistently below 25 degrees Celsius and where there is no provision to keep the engine. When the warm is not operating, lubricating oil should be meet the requirements of the following table. Oil meets the requirements usually with the synthetic base. The ASA5W viscosity grade of the synthetic oils may be used to provide to meet the minimum viscosity requirements of 100 degrees Celsius. Table 4, Arctic oil recommendations parameter, test method, and specifications. Grease company Cummins engine company recommends the use of the greaser meeting specification mil G3545 excluding the soda soap thickeners contact lubrication supplier and grease meeting the specification high test procedure, high temperature performance, low temperature properties, rust protection, water resistance, and stability. Penetration bomb test, PSI drop, and dirt count particles. See the caution. Do not mix with the brand of the grease cause the damage of the bearing. Excessive lubrication is harmful. Inadequate lubrication with the hand hub. Replace the pipe lobes. Use the thing to allow the lubricant to be thrown out due to the rotative speed. Fuel oil recommendation, fuel specification. Cumulative recommended for the fuel meter with the grade number 2D, with the recommended for the American Society Tested Material D975. Standard specification diesel fuel oil to use for the Cummins diesel engine that have developed the advantage of the high energy content, generally low cost number 2D diesel engine. Experience show the Cummins diesel engine will operate satisfactory on the fuel specification in table 5. Fuel additives. Extreme situation available. The fuel property quantity probably exists with a peculiar action option. Certain options and additives that can be used, however, the Cummins recommendation consolation fuel supplier and the Cummins service engineer department prior to the use of fuel additives. Table 5 shows the recommended fuel properties recommended specification, general description. Alternative fuels. Cummins engines is not responsible, cannot warrant emission performance of their engines for the use of the recommended fuel shown in Table 1 during the period when supplies are number 2D. The diesel is limited to alternate fuels with the property of the defined. The Table 6 for the following specification generally define alternate fuels prescribed. Table 6 alternating fuels. Coolant. When water must meet the free of the corrosive chemical for the chloride, sulfate, acids must be kept in slightly alkaline pH value range for the 8 to 9.5. Water unsuitable for drinking can be treated with described in the following paragraphs. Used in the engine. Maintain with the fleet guard DCA water filter on the edge of the filter. Bypass small amount of element which was placed periodically, replaced periodically, and someone with no antifreeze fill the system with water. In the winter, select the antifreeze except those anti-leaking compounds. Mix the antifreeze with the water required temperature. Install the replace DCA water filter element file with the recommendation. Cummins engine operation maintenance manual. Caution: although the antifreeze chemically compatible with the DCA water treatment, the anti-leak compound can clog coolant filter through the anti-leak. Antifreeze cannot be used with the Cummins engines. Engines equipped with a DC water filter. New engines should be the factory equipped with the filters DCA pre-charged element. See Table 7. The element compatibility plain water the all turn type. The antifreeze except for the anti-leak freeze. The corrosion resistor cartridge with the part number listed with the Table 7. The recommended with the service replacement engine with the U with the chart method determine the B maintenance. Refer to the operation maintenance of the manual. The detail of the using the chart method extended B method. Check refer to Table 8 with liquid DCA part number. The part status of the table of listing old new number parts. In order to obtain the DCA units required for the pre-charged cooling system, multiple the number of the U.S. gallons 1.0 the number of the imperial gallons, the 1.2 of the one of the DCA will treat 1 gallon of coolant. Use the corrosion resistor cartridge for the S for the table S for the 7, which contains chemical charge for the use the regular surface the cartridge for the DCA liquid for each of the required protective levels. See Table 8. At first, the B check for the oil change period with the DCA pre-charge element must be changed with the DCA surface element and replace the DCA surface element to each of the succeeding B check exempt under the following conditions. Table 7, corrosion resistant cartridge extended maintenance intervals in miles and kilometers. Of the makeup of the coolant made for the 2 element change for the coolant pre-treated supply. The state of the makeup of the coolant specification. Group 2 operation maintenance plan. Each time the system of the drain go back to the pre-charge element, make sure that the adequate protection to have the coolant checked for the 3rd element change often. Table 8 shows liquid for DCA products. Alright, Group 20, vehicle braking. This could describe the different type of the engine of the brake. This does include the compression brake, the exhaust brake, the air intake suppressed for the operation and installation of the Jacob engine brake. The described compression brake with the Jacob engine brake, the method of operation for the compression brake for the engine drive, the car for the engine performing the power of the light absorbing air compressed for the brake open for the exhaust valve before the compression stroke was complete. But the combustion does not occur with the cylinder. The compressed air is released in the engine. The exhaust system engine energy is not returned to the engine through the power stroke. The following describe the process of the opening of the exhaust valve to release the compressed air from the cylinder. Refer to the diagram figure in 221 to help you understand this process. When you energize the solenoid valve, the engine and lubricating oil flows under the pressure through the control valve. Then the oil flows to the both the master and slave piston. 21 schematic diagram of the compression brake. These show the three-way solenoid valve, three-way position switch, fuel pump switch, clutch switch, dash switch, fuse, battery, diode, three-way valve diode. Also to the certainly ejector for push rod, the rocker adjustment screw, the master piston, the adjusting screw, the slave piston, exhaust rocker level, the exhaust valves, ball check valve, high pressure passage, control valve, low pressure supply passage for the master slide piston from other unit from the exhaust oil to the crankcase, oil from the crankcase, engine lube oil pump to the other low passage and control valve. The oil pressure can cover the master piston to move the down up against the adjusting screw with the injector rocker level. The push rod move with the adjusting screw with the end of the rocker level up during the injection cycle. The cover the adjusting screw that push against the master piston, moving the master piston cover the high oil pressure through the master point of the slave piston. Ball check with the control of the valve hole for the high pressure oil from the master piston to the slave piston. The high pressure oil flow causes the piston to move down against the crosshead of open the exhaust valve. The exhaust valve to open the piston move to near the end of the compression stroke. The compression braking cycle is completed as compressed air with the release cylinder. 2 installation compression brake of the Jacobs engine brake. Remove the rocker level of the housings if they have been previously installed. Remove the adjusting screw lock out from the exhausting valve of the crosshead. Remove the exhaust valve crosshead. Install the adjusting screw lock nut of the Jacobs brake crosshead. Install the Jacob brake crosshead onto the exhaust crosshead guide with the adjusting screw with the end of the crosshead. Must be torqued with the manifold of the engine. Adjusting the crosshead. Follow the instructions of page 14 to 30 to adjust the crosshead. Remove the rocker level of the set shaft set groove with the rocker level of the housing figure 22. Install the Jacob brake oil supply screw in the rocker level of the housing. Tighten the screw with the top of the screw even with the boss of the housing. Remove the adjusting screw lock nut with the injector rocker. Remove the lock nut from the adjusting screw. Install the lock nuts on the Jacob adjusting screw. Figure 22, remove the set screw for the rocker level of the housing. Adjust the Jacob ray, adjusting the screw and injector for the rocker level. Install the rocker level of the housing. Following steps 1, 2, and 3 with the page 14 through 31. Install the housing. Install the Jacob brake with the sealed washer into the mounting hole of the rocker level of figure 23. Caution, do not use the Jacob with the washer for the engine of the cast iron lever housing. Install the Jacob brake with the stud fastening the rocker lever housing onto the engine to make sure that the install of the correct length of the stud into the correct location of the engine. If in 23, the installing the Jacob brake steel washer. Figure 24, or location of the stud and space for the rocker level. Figure 25, installing the Jacob brake stud with the rocker level of the housing. Figure 26, tighten the sequence of the Jacob brake stud with the rocker level of the housing. Longest step of the rocker level of the housing near the front of the engine. See figure 24. Find the correct location. Start with the tighten the studs 65 to 75 foot-pounds of torque. Tighten the studs in sequence and shown in figure 26. To adjust the valve injector valve with the injector instructions being on page 14 through 32 of the valve injectors. Inspect the rub serial hole at the bottom of the Jacob brake. Even the hole located approximately in the center of the side. Install the against the rocker level housing. Figure 27. Apply with the light coat with the clean grease with lubricating oil on the rubber seal and hold the seal into the hole. 27. Installing the rubber seal into the Jacob brake unit. Installing the Jacob brake gasket onto the rocker level of the housing. The strip of the rocker level of the housing must be clean and smooth. When installing the gasket, install the Jacob brake onto the rocker level of the housing. Install the spacer nuts on the stud of the figure 24. Find the correct location of the spacer. Tighten the nuts 55 to 65 pounds of torque. Tighten the nuts in sequence shown in figure 26. Adjust the slave position. To adjust the slave piston adjustment must be made with the engine stop cold. To use the same procedure as adjust the slave piston, you would adjust the valve of the engine rotation for the correct piston. To adjust the exhaust valve of the clearance and also correct position. To adjust the slave of the piston clearance of the exhaust valve for the cylinder to be adjusted by the closing position. Rotate the crankshaft in the direction of the engine rotation in line with the A with the 1/6V valve settings marked with the accessory drive valve within the point of the gear. When the A 1/6V valve setting marked with its line, intake the exhaust valve, make the close to the cylinder with number 5. The injector plunger with the cylinder number 3 must be at the top of the travel of the plunger, not at the top of the travel. To rotate the crankshaft one complete revolution, they align the valve with the set mark. The instruction of the A and 1/6V valve setting mark with the beginning adjustment for the illustration purpose can be an adjustment with any cylinders as shown in figure table 1. Injector valve setting at 1 to 6, 1A and 1 6 valve setting 3 and 5, injector 5 and the valve set 5, the B, the 2 and 5 valve setting 6, injector 5, 3 valve, the C and 3 and 4 valve setting, the injector 2, the valve setting 6, A and 1 6 valve setting, the injector 4, the valve 2, B the 2 and B the 2 5 valve setting 1, injector 1 valve 4, and C and 3 4 valve setting 5, injector valve 1. No, using an Allen wrench to adjust the slave piston J with the brake of the model for the 25C of the model 44, figure 218 and 28. Screwdriver to adjust the slave piston with the Jacob Brown with the 44A and with the 44B, figure 229. The same adjustment procedure claimed for the model 25C, 44 and 44A and 44B. Loosen the lock nut with the adjusting screw. Loosen the adjusting screw with the piston again for the bottom of the bore engine brake house. So you can place the 18,000th of an inch feeler gauge between the slave piston with the crosshead. Tighten the adjusting screw until the slave piston touch with the feeler. The feeler gauge must have the light amount of friction between the slave piston, cross B head. Hold the adjusting screw with the position to tighten the lock nut with the 15 to 18 pounds. Alright, 28 with the adjusting slave piston with the model 25C and the 44C. 44 adjusting the slave piston with the model 44A and 44B. Use the same procedure adjusting the remainder of the slave pistons. Install the electrical wiring solenoid to Jacob brake ring in figure 2010 with the connecting other ending with the wiring inside the terminal with the lead out assembly braking housing. Note, some of the application for the 2-wire dual lead solenoid valve, either solenoid electrical wiring, can be connected to the vehicle electrical system other than wire with the ground system. Remove the air with the oil patch with the brake unit that started the engine. Run the engine with the idle RPM 4 to 5 minutes to increase the engine RPM with approximately 1800 RPMs. Increase the engine RPM with the normal idle RPM to push down the solenoid 5 to 6 times. Let the engine oil fill the passages in the brake unit. Use your hand to push down the solenoid figure 2011. Installing the electrical wiring to the solenoid valve in 2011. Pushing on the solenoid to fill the oil passages. Caution, whenever the engine running of the rocker housing cover to remove it, to be sure to wear eye face protection. Install the new rocker housing cover gasket onto the Jacob brake. Make sure the surfaces of the gasket are clean free with the damage. Install the rocker housing cover without the instructions given with the page for the 14 through 36. Tighten the cap screws. Install the clutch switch. Install this clutch switch inside the vehicle cab. Use the location cab with the actuating arm of the switch or against the clutch pedal with figure 2012. 2012, the clutch switch arm and against the clutch pedal arm. Just the clutch switch. The switch must be adjusted when the clutch pedal is pushed down. The clutch disengages. The switch is in the opposite open position. The switch is open with the position stop the electrical current to the solenoid brake unit. Pushing the actuating arm with the switch against the clutch pedal with the free movement of the clutch pedal causes the switch open. You can leave the outer nut of the holding with the actuating arm with the switch so that you can move the arm in the correct position. The necessary, but you can bend the arm so that it is in correct position. Tighten the other nut. Install the fuel pump switch. Install the fuel pump switch on the fuel pump as shown in figure 2013. Use the two fuel pump housing cap screws to fasten switch on the fuel pump. Install the actuating arm with the switch of the fuel with the pump throttle shaft of the actuating arm with the cover of the switch to be closed position with the throttle shaft with the idle position. The switch must be open position when the shaft is not idle. When the switch is in open position, stop the electrical current solenoid is breaking in, tighten and loosen the adjusting screw of the arm. Figure 2013 fuel pump switch installed on the fuel pump. Caution, make sure that all the fuel pump throttle shaft moved freely from the old throttle position to the idle position you are ever installed in the switch. Manage for the engine brake of the control valve with the remove the cap screw, fasten the cover plate with the figure 2014. Warning, remove the cap screws carefully with the cover plate. Hold the cover valve springs in the compressed position. Remove the cover control valve springs 2015. 2014, remove the control valve cover plate. Also, 2015, remove the control valve spring. Also, then 2016, remove the control valve. No, the Jacob engine brake model with number 20 and 25, 25A and 25B with the spring of it will use one spring with the control valve. The control valve needle nose pliers to pull the control valve straight out and out before the figure 2016. Inspect the cleaning of the placement. Check with the spring of the wear damage. Check with replace the spring if they are worn damage. Check the control valve because the control valve must be moved freely with the board that does not feel move freely. With the check of the valve and the check of the damage. Replace the valve is damaged. Assembly, install the control valve into the bore and install the string of the board. Install the cover plate. The solenoid valve disassembly. Remove the electrical wire and solenoid valve. Remove the solenoid valve. Use the solenoid wrench to the solenoid. Loosen the solenoid valve. Figure 2017. 2017. Use the solenoid wrench to loosen the solenoid valve. Replacement. Move the oil rings of the solenoid valve. Apply the coat of oil to the new oil rings. Install the new oil ring seals onto the solenoid valve. Figure 2018. Measure the oil. Make sure the oil rings are correctly installed onto the solenoid valve. Figure 28 and 18. Install the oil ring seals of the solenoid valve. Assembly and install the solenoid valve of the bore of the housing. Make sure the oil rings do not move from the position of the solenoid valve. The solenoid wrench the tight solenoid valve. Install the electrical wiring on the solenoid valve. Master pistons assembly. Remove the cap screw. Follow the flat spring with the figure 2019. Take the position with the flat spring before you can remove it. Spring must be installed with the same position when it was removed. Note some of the model with the cap screws washed with the fastened flat springs on the housing. Some models use the spring retainer. The spring retainer must be installed with the same position as when it was removed. The NTA 8055 CDI engine shop manual. Remove the master pinion from the board. 219. Remove the cap screw with the flat spring. Inspect the replacement. Check the master piston freedom movement in the bore with the piston does not move freely. Check for the dirt and damage of the piston. Replace the piston if damaged. Assembly. If the master piston is bored, install the flat spring retainer with the washer cap screws. Make sure for the tab of the spring do not touch the side of the raised center or of the piston. Caution: do not try to adjust the master piston. The master piston has been adjusted at the factory. And changes made to the master piston can cause damage to the engine. Slave piston disassembly. Warning: the slave piston under the heavy compression must be very careful when removing the spring of the follow construction and use of the correct tools of wearing safety glasses. Loosen adjusting screw could lock and turn the engine brake until the overside of the unit is installed against the locker level of the housing up. The push down against the spring retainer to remove the tension against the snap ring. Use the arbor press against the spring retainer. Remove the spring and snap ring. Figure 2020. Slowly raise the arbor press until the all tension is released from the slave piston spring. Figure 2020. Remove the snap ring with the slave piston. Remove the spring retainer of the spring with the slave piston. And take notice of the position of the spring retainer is made to be installed with the same position when removed. Inspection replacement. Check for the spring of the spring retainer. Replace the parts with the worn damage. Check if the slave piston freedom of the movement in the bore of the piston does not move freely. Check for the dirt and damage. Replace the piston. If it is damaged, install the slave piston with the bore. Install the spring on the spring retainer. Use the arbor press to push down with the retainer of the spring so that you can install the snap ring. Install the snap ring. Turn the brake over until the side of the unit is installed against the rocker level of the housing down. Install the adjusting screw with the lock nut. Caution: the adjusting screw with the Jacob brake for the model 44A and 44B cannot be automatic. Or lash adjusted. Do not make any change with the adjusting screw. Any change with it can cause damage to the exhaust brake. The exhaust brake is installed with the engine can be either reduced the speed of the vehicle to prevent wear of the mechanical brake system. The exhaust brake of the operator for the control of the flow of the exhaust gave gas for the exhaust manifold to turbocharge the engine for the exhaust flow for the control for the after the exhaust flows for the turbocharge the action applied with the most pressure against the engine piston would reduce the rotation of the crankshaft flow of the vehicle. Through the exhaust brake generate with the carbon deposit the application brake in the required extended period of time. The hydraulic electrical retard with the BU for these applications. Following conditions are acceptable to use with the exhaust brake with the maximum pressure for the exhaust system must not be exceed 45 psi. Have to do the valve spring part number 178869 and valve guides part number 17296 that must be installed with the cylinder head, the damper plate with the exhaust brake must be fully open with the engine accelerating the bar while pulling the full load. When the engine is idle speed with the exhaust of the brake at the closed position, the damper plate must be adjusted to permit the small amount of the exhaust flow through the plate. For naturally aspirated engines, install the air intake and suppressor into the air taking system and to prevent dirt from going from the air cleaner into the engine. The air cleaner can be used without the relief valve of the engine has been exhaust brake. The air intake suppressor can be used with the turbocharged engine. The Cummins warranty does not include the damage caused by the installation used with the exhaust brake. Refer to the manufacturer instruction for the installation operation adjustment of the maintenance for the exhaust brake before you install the new exhaust brake with the right with the call of the Cummins application engineering department for the more detail. The air intake and suppressor for the engine is equipped with the exhaust brake with the propulsion can occur with the air intake with the combination cylinder pressure. The intake valve is open during the braking period. The propulsion damage the element causes the dirt to move from the elements into the engine. The air intake suppressor can help prevent this problem. The air intake suppressor must be installed with the air intake system between the air and the air cleaner and install the suppressor as close to the engine as possible using the following to help determine the need for the suppressor. Air take and suppressor required for the naturally aspirated engine. Use the dry element cleaner to check the design of the air cleaner with define the air intake suppressor. Necessary oil bath air cleaners must have the seal between the oil sump and the air cleaner body. Note: use part number 14706 air intake suppressor 4 inch diameter air intake tubing. Use part number 147707 air taking suppressor at 5 and 5.5 inches diameter air taking tubing. Alright, your diesel engine Cummins section 2 maintenance allocation chart appendix. The appendixes of the maintenance charts. And then your indexes, basically index, and you by order of Secretary J.R.L. Dilworth, Brigadier General, United States Army, Adjutant General John A. Wickham, Jr., General, United States Army, Chief of Staff. Metric system equivalence, approximate conversion chart factors. Something wrong with the publication. Recommended change with equipment technical publications. And this can be found in Liberated Manufacturing Army Government Manuals.